Welcome to Hive Football. I'm Tim Taylor. The Lebanon Yellow Jackets have had a successful football season so far. Here are some of those highlights. After the amazing season the Lebanon Yellow Jackets have had, we decided to interview Coach Will Christian. Here's what he had to say.
I mean, it's a huge accomplishment. I'm super proud of our kids. It's a very challenging league, week in, week out, evidenced by the fact that the last 4 champions, I believe, have all had a loss on their schedule at some point in the conference play, which just shows the difficulty and parity. So to be able to be at the top half of the league and have an opportunity to win the championship is very difficult and a great accomplishment. But with that being said, certainly we don't feel done at this point. We want to continue to improve and take steps to try to take the next step in our program. One of the things that we haven't been able to accomplish yet is winning the whole thing. Well, right now we're 8-1. We play a 9-game regular season, which, because we're in a 10-team league, it's all conference games. And then we enter a district tournament based on a seeding that we get from that regular season and a point system that the Missouri High School Activities Association developed. And we're the 2nd seed in that district, and so we'll play in that tournament. The winner of that district advances into the state quarterfinals. And so right now we're in the first round of districts. We're the 2 seed playing the 7th seed. No, not at all. Obviously we respect everyone. We shouldn't be in a spot where we're fearing anyone. The reality is that Camdenton was the better team on that night, but also I think it's been proven that they're not invincible either. And so it really boils down to us learning from the first time, getting better, and playing better.
Next on the Hive, we look at up-and-coming star Olivia Magruder.
With a historic tennis season, sophomore Olivia Magruder qualified for state.
I thought the people there would be a lot better than they were, and they were really good, but I was expecting them to be even better. No, I was super nervous my first match, but for my second or third I was a lot less. But my first one I was super nervous the entire match. So I'm going to hit with Courtney Nesbitt Tennis Academy, and then I'm also playing JTT.
It was really fun, yet very stressful. I was constantly worried that I wouldn't be able to do good enough to play number 1 doubles, but I just kind of used that as my motivation to do better in practice, hopefully to lead to do better in games. I think since singles we had such a big difference of her being 1 and I being 5, that it definitely gained both of our confidences and how we can do together. We were both really nervous that that jump between our numbers was going to interfere, but then I think by the end we realized that we work really good together. Definitely with me at net and her at the baseline, it just worked and was really compatible.
I want to medal at state. I was 1 spot away from medaling this year, and I'm hoping to be in the top 3 next year and medal.
This is Peyton Fuller with Caitlin Frank, Brooke Frank, and Riley Fisher from the Hive.
Bunker is more than a pet. He walks the halls of LHS to help comfort and support students in ways counselors can't. LHS counselor Stacy Phone is teaming up with Bunker to help students.
Bunker had to pass temperament tests as a puppy, and then he was raised in Fort Leavenworth Prison. He was trained by a prisoner, and then he went to Ellsworth Prison in Kansas. And then he ended up with a foster family in Memphis before we got it. We did a week of training together. We had to go out in the public and pass tests. And so we actually have a card saying that we've passed all the tests, and we're a dog team. I'm his handler. Sit. Look at me. Good boy. Good boy. Stay. Stay. Bunker, come. Good boy. Good boy. Bunker, sit. 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 Good boy. Go to heel. Good boy. Good boy. Check the good boy. Okay, sit. Pop. Good boy. Good boy. So instead of treats, telling him good boy and petting him, that's his treat.
Lebanon High School's local art teacher, Elizabeth Barker, has an artist crush on Albert Dürer and his famous woodcut prints.
To my German-speaking ancestor, Albrecht Dürer. I mean, like, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to get it close. He went and studied in Italy. And then he brought back the things he learned in Italy across the Alps back to Germany. And so, like, he's got everything. He's got the detail. He's got the wood grain. He's got the teeny tiny lines showing you everything. And he's got the athletic bodies that he learned when he was down there studying in Italy. And he's a big deal. My art history students used to debate whether or not he was a good-looking fellow. He had lots of hair. He could have been like a hairband guy, okay? So we have a lot of stuff from him. He's like one of the big ones. He's like one of the big deal. Like, think of the most famous person that you know, that you want to meet. And well, it made books get into regular folks' hands. It made an artist able to send their stuff everywhere. It was basically the memes of the 16th century.
In honor of Veterans Day, here is some of the U.S. veterans' interviews over their experiences in Vietnam.
I'm with the Veterans Memorial Board and I'm the president. We're responsible for the supervision, improvement, maintenance, care, and operations of all veteran memorials located in the city of Lebanon. There is, I call it the Walk of Honor, which is the bricks that go down and you walk between them, go up to what was the main memorial, the Fallen Warriors Memorial. Okay, as you're coming up the walk, you look to the left and you'll see a pentagon, and that is the memorial. And it is strictly, you have to have been killed on a battlefield or died from the injuries from that battle.
Simon Westerfield.
Stephen Markham.
Donald Paul Mason.
It's Marvin Basnett.
I went to the service in 1966 at Fort Leonard Wood.
Well, I initially did my training in Fort Lawson Woods.
I was in the Army, and I got my draft notice, and I reported to the draft board May the 12th of 1969.
I was in the U.S. Army, and I served in the Republic of Vietnam.
I was left there as a private first class. Went to Vietnam after my AIT. I remember most was not an exciting incident for us. The rescue helicopter lost track of us. We were okay, but he had no idea what happened. The thing that I remember most was that When I joined the group, I replaced a lost operator. The month after I got home, I found out that we had lost another one that I knew. A Veterans Day is to support the veteran and thank them for their service.
So I didn't get to go very far. I was hoping, join the military, see the world, and right off the bat, it's like, well, you got to stay in Missouri to do your training. So I spent almost a year doing the training there. So whenever I deployed, I went to Afghanistan. It was interesting because flying there was a lot longer than what I was expecting. And then, once we got over there, we got to meet some of the locals and meet our interpreters and stuff like that. One of our interpreters turned out to be crooked. One of the places that we got hit at was this big marijuana field. To find out later, we got hit pretty good on that road. There was an IED blast, hit my truck, and nobody was hurt. And then we started to hear, just gunfire going off a little bit. And so I think this was probably the first time that we actually got hit. And we didn't lose nobody. Nobody got hurt.
Yes, I went to Chulai, and you got out of that plane, and it was just like it was a different world. The heat hit you in the face, and it was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was a deep heat. It was something that I'd never been used to, and I was raised on a farm and whatever, but there is no words in my vocabulary to explain the way I feel. And my injury it's been 52 years, almost 53 years. But I'm just so thankful to God, because if it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't be here at all. But
I didn't think I'd go to Vietnam because most tankers go to Germany. I got selected as one of the candidates to go through the AIT on Sheridan's, and I ended up in Vietnam. Well, when we got over there, of course, I only got a 15-day leave before I went. You usually get a 30-day leave, and because the tanks was over there waiting for you. Well, we get over there wasn't any tanks. So they put us in an infantry unit with no training except what little we got in basic training. For 4 months, I humped enough missions. I got a CIB, which is a combat infantryman's badge, as a tanker, which is kind of rare. So
what the soldiers have done deserve all the recognition they can get. Sometimes they come home and there's nobody there for them. Sometimes they come home, they're injured. Sometimes they leave and they're perfectly fine. They come home, they deal with PTSD, they deal with injuries, all these things. I think that it's important that the community, not just a few people, but the community comes out and supports these veterans and show them how much they care and thank them for the freedoms.
As the fall season starts for more than just the sports here, if you walk down too far from the science hallway, you might see some old sites. For instance, why not have a take a look at speech and debate? They just had their preparation for the season that's just to come.
Speech and debate in Lebanon High School has garnered many awards over its years. However, it takes an odd and unexpected type of practice.
Why do speech and debate kids stare at walls whenever they recite their speeches?
It's just a way for them to get warmed up and ready to go for the competition.
Speech and debate kids often recite their speeches to walls to better memorize and perform the content.
Are there any downsides to reciting to the walls?
It's not quite as good as being able to speak to somebody in person, but when we get to a competition, everyone's got to warm up, so there's not always a person available to match up with everyone. So it's not the best, but it's the best with what we can do.
A couple months ago, a trend went around on TikTok called the Mosaic Challenge. The point of the Mosaic Challenge was for different people to make videos of themselves stating the different personality traits they have that they actually got from other people. For example, one might say, my mom would always curl her lashes after putting on her mascara, and ever since I've done the same. Or, my best friend would use the word slay after every minor inconvenience, and now I do it too. Not speaking from personal experience, of course. Anyway, the point of the trend is to show the beautiful and sometimes even saddening ways that people around us affect our personality.
Cora Tapp recently came 6th in the Glendale Varsity Tournament. Speech and debate students earn stamps for every significant point level they reach.
And do you have any stories about kids talking to walls?
Not stories, but you do get some crazy looks from the kids at the actual school when school gets out on a Friday, because they just walk through their cafeteria or commons area and there's 300-400 kids all screaming at walls, being weird, and it's just a lot of weird looks from all over.
Members are hoping to continue to have a good season this year before they host their own tournament in January.
For the Hive, this is Kaylee Hanks.
Thanks. For this episode of The Hive, Lebanon Band have had a successful marching season this year. Here are some of the highlights.
So what I really liked about this year is that we tried some very different things than we've done in the past, and we kind of pushed our show design and the students and just everything that we did kind of into a new realm of marching band that we'd not really ventured too far into before. Utilizing a lot of choreography and kind of almost dance-like elements in some portions of the show, putting props out on the field for the first time that we utilized and students are actually interacting with. Just a little bit more modern take on marching band than what we've done in the past. So I think that was kind of the biggest change this year and the biggest thing that was exciting. And what I'm most proud of is that we were able to have some success in doing that. So I think it really paid off, and the students really bought in. Our staff, Mr. Todd, Mr. Lucas, Miss Mudge, Miss Benny, everybody just was kind of on the same page with going in that direction. And I'm really excited that we were able to do it and that everybody was excited about it and that it paid off in the success that we had. Had some pretty good success competitively, especially at Carthage, which is always exciting. We love Carthage and we love going there, and it's especially great when we're able to be successful and bring home some nice awards from that one.
Next up on today's agenda, our LHS choir had their very first concert of the year.
So after the recent concert, I thought that all four of the choirs had
Ashlyn Myers, and Katie Valentine.
10 little soldier boys.
Arriving on an isolated island.
One by one, they begin to die.
You are charged with these indictments, that you did respectively and at diverse times commit the following. Edward Armstrong.
A doctor.
That you did cause the death of Louisa Mary Cleese.
I'm a nurse doctor.
Wilhelmina Bloor.
A detective.
That you brought about the death of James Stephen Lander.
The next CID woman.
Emily Caroline Brent.
A spinster.
That you were responsible for the death of Beatrice Taylor.
Doesn't like her secretary.
Vera Elizabeth Claythorne.
A secretary.
That you killed Peter Ogilvy Hamilton.
Led a very interesting life.
Philip Lombard.
A captain.
That you were guilty of the deaths of 21 men, members of an East African tribe.
Yes, the saddest of all.
John Gordon Mackenzie.
An old war general.
That you sent your wife's lover, Arthur Richmond, to his death.
Good as the club, but it's a nice chair.
Anthony James Marston.
A free spirit.
That you were guilty of the murder of John and Lucy Combs.
Rather, that was a girl.
Thomas Rogers and Ethel Rogers.
A butler. A house cook.
That you brought about the death of Jennifer Brady.
See her underwear.
Lawrence John Wargrave.
A retired judge.
That you were guilty of the murder of Edward Seton.
One thing at a time.
Prisoners at the bar, have you anything to say in your defense?